How long would you like it to go for?
We'll wing it. We got to finish this story.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I figured we'll just kind of wing it, and then if we start talking too long and you want to stop it, just let us know. But I hit record, and the biggest thing that we stopped talking about, and I genuinely have not stopped thinking about it, was so we had for the listeners that are coming in on the second version of this, I definitely implore you to go back to the first and listen to that, because this is going to be an extension of our first conversation. So this will be the second half that we have not fully planned. Kind of working through some technical difficulties the last time and some scheduling stuff, and we're back. So we left off with how you met your husband, and it seemed like, so I'm trying to remember everything. I'm trying to make this as genuine as possible. Not genuine,
Yes.
but yeah. So I didn't want to like have things prepared, but you you met your husband, and you didn't think that he was into you. He didn't think
Yep.
that you were into him. And then it was on the third date, and then the world shut off and the internet broke, and no one knows what happened from there. And so so every it's like the third date's kind of like a universal, like it's a make or break. Like, is this going to continue, is it not? And then your internet died.
That's
So
right. That's right.
now
And I was actually talking about how too many people think there has to be fireworks and chemistry, and I want to jump your bones or something. And if I
yeah.
don't, then it's not worth anything. And clearly that did not happen for us. It was very cool, calm, nice, gentle. And on the third date, we finally kissed. That's it. Just a little kiss. It was after we went for a coffee date, and he walked me back to my car and said goodbye. And then we had a kiss, and it was really nice. I thought, oh, he actually is into me, and I'm into him too. And this was cool. And that's when we realized that, okay, this something more is going to come out of this meeting. And then it just developed from there. And, it took quite a while for him to say that he loved me. I think it was, I don't know, maybe 7 months into it. He had been burnt before, so he went quite slow with that. And
Is that slow?
7 months? Well, for me,
Oh,
it was slow. I was like, come on,
okay.
man. But, for a lot of people, they want to know, like, quite quickly, and maybe it's more the women. They want to know, you don't say you love me, and this sort of stuff. And they want to rush things. So it's important not to rush things. My intuition told me about 3 months in that he was going to break up with me. I just had this thought pop into my head that said, Grant's going to break up with you. I was like, oh. And I asked him straight up, and he said, yeah. And he was scared because things were going really well. And he was like, oh no, this is going too well. I don't know how to handle this. But we talked about it, and we got through it. And a lot of people are afraid of things going well, and then they sabotage it.
Yeah.
We see that a lot in dating when people are like, I don't know what happened. It was going so well, and then he or she just ended it, and it doesn't make sense.
So
So,
I got a question. I feel like we got a pretty good rapport, so I can ask some questions here. I
okay.
feel like throughout my experience, we'll call it, like throughout my life, of kind of being on both sides of the fence of like a good person and not so good person, I guess in relationships we'll put it.
Mm-hmm.
100% of the times, in my experience, women have been correct on their intuition on what is going to happen. I've had quite a few friends that are female that have always wondered, like, I feel like he's doing this, or I don't know. But like, they're always afraid to find out, or to have that question. That's a real thing, right? Like, women's intuition, that
Mm.
has to be a real thing. why do more women not trust that? Or am I just completely not the right sex, don't understand women at all? I don't, by the way. But like, but that's got to be a real thing, right?
It is a real thing.
Okay.
Men have intuition too, but they don't work on it. You know, they're not in tune with themselves. Men are more about the physical sense, whereas women are more about emotions. The men who slow themselves down and give themselves permission to meditate or talk about their emotions and trusting and all of that stuff, they can 100% find their intuition as well. We've all got it. We just have to learn how to trust it. And a lot of people are terrified to trust their intuition because they are afraid to be lonely. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to start a fight, whatever it might be. Or they just think, oh, no. You know, this whole red flag thing, men see red flags, women see red flags, they ignore them. And this is why relationships don't work out, because early on, we want it to work so badly that we're willing to ignore the red flags. And then it turns to crap. But if we took notice of those red flags right from the beginning, we could save ourselves and our partners so much heartache. And trusting yourself enough to even bring it up can be really scary.
Yeah. How do you go about that? I've wanted to have those conversations before, and the only reason why I didn't is because I was a coward and I was afraid of actually having uncomfortable conversations. So I would just stretch it out, and you're kind of like the proof of the complete opposite of that, because you did have those uncomfortable conversations. You're still married.
Yeah.
So how do you go about like getting over that? And then now obviously it's paid off for you,
Yeah. If I didn't have that conversation, he would have broke up with me and I would not have fought it. I would have went, okay, whatever, you're not ready. So the fact that I brought it up made a big difference, because if he had said to me, I'm breaking up with you, I would have been too wounded to fight it. I think I would have just went, all right, okay, you're not into me. That's terrible. So, so the fact that I mentioned it really saved us.
Yeah.
But the how-to is a tricky one, and I wasn't always as trusting of my intuition as I am now. It took a lot of therapy, probably work on myself, talking to friends, talking to clients, and realizing that, you know what, being assertive, being open, facing your fears really does make a huge difference to our lives.
Oh yeah.
And taking in a deep breath and asking yourself, maybe if I say something, it could go this way. If I don't say anything, what's the consequence of that? Because you don't know which way it could go. It could go great, could go terrible. It could just let your partner know that I don't trust you. There's a niggle inside of me and I don't trust you. So watch out, buddy. Or you could find out the truth. How cool would that be? But if you don't say anything, you're the one left. And when you don't say anything, that builds up a lack of trust, fear. Actually, when you don't say anything, it makes things heaps worse.
Yeah.
It's like when you don't say something, it's like having a cut and you ignore it and it gets infected, and you still ignore it and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you face it and you get it stitched, even though the stitching is painful, it will get better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've also found that like every uncomfortable conversation that I have had, since I've decided to mature a little bit, just even like friends or setting boundaries is another uncomfortable conversation for me to have at the beginning. Is they're never as hard as I thought they were. The conversations never go the way that I thought in my head. I always go like complete negative. It never goes that way, so they're never as difficult as I imagined. So because you had that conversation, you are now with your husband and you had your third date. not gonna lie, I thought, the third date was gonna have a little bit more bang of a of a story.
That's right? It doesn't need to be a big bang. It
Yeah,
can
no,
be
that's real
something
life.
just really lovely.
Yeah, that's how real life, real relationships really go. It's just not everybody comes falling in the door, tearing the clothes off, and it's that doesn't happen. But
That
yeah,
can
okay.
happen later, right? You
Oh
can have
yeah,
that later.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but all right. Sorry about this tangent. So yeah, let's get back on track, I guess. So you had your third date. You guys end up working things out. And you're kind of like progressing along throughout the relationship. And then kind of where were you going with that? I'm sorry.
That's all right. There's so many different things that we could talk about. We honestly could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. But I guess, what your audience likes to hear is, I suppose, they're about fighters' stories and getting through tough times and learning from that.
Yeah.
Boundaries is, you mentioned that is one of those things that are super important to getting through tough relationships and tough stories, tough situations. Because if we don't really think about what's important to us, then we're going to set ourselves up for failure all the time. There's only so long you can put everybody else above you. There's only so long you can lie to yourself, ignore your own needs, and it gets exhausting. It gets boring. It gets to the point where you don't know who you are anymore. So these really tough conversations, whether it be about our past traumas, stuff that happened to us as a kid, or things that we've done, or near-death experiences, or being in the military, whatever it is, all of those horribly tough conversations are extremely important to have in relationship, because all of those things, whether you think they do or not, affect who you are, and therefore they affect your relationship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's boundaries are weird. Um they're difficult to set, I guess. At least, well, for me. I feel like some people are very easy at setting those boundaries, and then that can come off as bitchy. Um or like kind of like standoffish of like, what do you mean, like you're not okay with me taking advantage of you? And because it's like we've kind of gotten to that place, oddly, to where it's like, oh hey, can I ask you a question? And if you say no, they're like, whoa, no, like it was just implied I'm going to, but actually setting boundaries can be difficult for some people, especially in relationships. And you going
Yeah.
from kind of like the negative relationship that you had before your husband, every relationship, at least from my, no, I'm going to say like every relationship, you carry that weight. It's like, I like to think of life as like a suitcase, and like when you go into a relationship, you start to carry this baggage, with you. And sometimes it can be hard going from like one relationship to the next without dumping off that baggage before you get on the next trip. Is
Oh, yeah.
that something that you were able to do then? And then be able to set those boundaries if you weren't beforehand?
I had no boundaries in my first marriage.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know really what that meant. Um, then I dated a few people in between meeting my now husband, and I had some boundaries, but I kind of practiced what that meant with those guys, and that was okay. And it's still something I still work on, and I think it's something that we have to work on quite regularly, really, because someone else in your life will test you. They'll test your boundaries. It's not an intentional test, but they will ask you things that, it might be simple things like, let's go to Chinese tonight. And you may think, oh, I really don't want Chinese, but you say yes. That's kind of crossing your own sense of what's important to you, what's right. That's a very simple example.
Yeah.
But learning how to say no and trusting that it's okay. And if it's not okay, then those people in your life are not worthy of you, really. You know, teaching other people how to respect your boundaries, that's really what it's all about. And trusting that if I say no and you don't like it, that's your issue, not mine.
Yeah.
And if you don't like me because of that, that's also your issue, not mine, because there are plenty of other people out there who do like me, and I'd rather hang out with them because they're respecting who I am. Anyway.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Relationships they're weird. Just everything. I feel like we're supposed to be getting this manual and nobody gives it to us on how to like even communicate with the opposite sex. And we're just both put on this floating rock to try to figure it out. And
Yes.
for some reason, we're not allowed to just say what's on our mind, even though that's the easiest like shortcut is just at least how I look at it is to be very precise and clear in what you want.
So I'm curious before you go on.
Yeah.
Why are we not allowed to say what's on our mind?
So no, I like it. Nobody ever asks me questions. They should. It doesn't feel like we're allowed to stick up for ourselves. And maybe this is just my perception, and kind of how I feel about things. But it doesn't seem like you're allowed to stick up for what you believe in, and that individuals are allowed to have their own morals, and like set of standards and everything, and that everything's supposed to be very across the board. We all agree. And being individualized and sticking up for what you believe in, you stick out more, you create more attention. And it kind of feels like and I say we as in this crazy country that I'm in, have gotten to a place to where attention is not good. If if you bring attention to yourself, and I don't mean to say that like for a countrywide thing or whatever, I've kind of felt this way my entire life. If you bring attention to yourself, it allows for scrutiny, and then you can become the focal point for people to start picking apart, and it's easy to pick apart the one at the top, or the one that's making themselves visible. So it's just kind of something that it's easier, I guess, to kind of sit in the background and not.
It's safer, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you're right when it comes to, in Australia, we call it the tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you have that sort of thing, where if people are doing well or have an idea of their own, they get chopped right down.
Tall poppy, huh?
Yeah.
What
Don't
is,
know.
no,
So
yeah, what is that? Like
so what that means is if someone is doing really well for themselves, or I guess even if they have an idea that stands out and they're successful because of it, they'll get pulled down.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll get criticized and all that sort of thing, judged because of who they are and what they're trying to say and what they're trying to do. So we've got this nice little title for that here. But taking what you said about not being able to speak up for yourself, what if we kind of brought that right down to a relationship with your intimate person, just a one-on-one thing? What would it feel like to be able to, this is a question that I'd like everyone listening to think about, feel like to just be able to be completely honest with that one person in your world? And there are ways to do it. So sometimes it might be that you kind of formulate it in your mind first, and then you might put out a little kind of disclaimer. I've got this weird idea. I've got this thought. Don't think you'll like this. I feel weird, but I really want to tell you this. Whatever it is. I want to tell you something, but can you not say anything until I finish because it's a bit awkward? All of these sorts of openers kind of create that sense of intrigue and, oh, wow, there's something important that's going to be said here, and let's go for it. So, my husband and I, as far as I know, we have this really weird relationship where we talk about everything, all our weird ideas and fantasies and thoughts and things that piss us off and all of that sort of stuff. So, we've been in lockdown for 4 months in the same house, working together with our desks, in the same room and all this. And we can just talk all day long. And I think, how do we not run out of things to talk about?
Yeah.
But we don't, because we're just so open with each other. And that's what makes it such a great relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. With my fiance, we we have something similar, but it's more one-sided for the most part at this point. It's more kind of me unloading on her. As far as I'll have kind of like an unpolished thought or emotion or feeling, and I'll just be like, I need to tell you something, and I don't know what's going to come out. And so she'll just we stop, and then I just keep going until what I get out comes out. And then for some reason I need to repeat it a few times, only coming from a different angle, because I don't know. I do that when I argue too. It doesn't make any sense.
You're processing the information.
Yeah, but so we do that. She's not always like the greatest at it, and so it's kind of, that's who you are, and she was under the impression that those are the things that you're supposed to keep to yourself, and that's not what I wanted to hear. But in reality, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. I want to know the weird things, I don't want to know what your profile says online, the real stuff. And so we've been able, to kind of get into that. But my question for you would be, and obviously, you've gone through, numerous occasions of, horrible instances and things like that. But you asked a question about being completely honest with your partner. Do you think that you're capable of doing that if you don't know what honesty to yourself is? Or I guess I don't know if I really worded that question correctly, but I don't know if people actually know what the truth is, or if it's what their truth is. And then also, because I've been able to trick myself, and I can lie to myself, so it's, I don't really know. That made more sense in my head. And as you can see, these little rambling sessions that I do with her don't always go anywhere.
No, I think I know what you're saying. Look, I believe that if it's true to you in that moment, then it's your truth. It may not be correct, but at that moment you believe it's correct. And then we can work on ourselves, or it kind of unfolds, or we have a realization that, oh, right, I told you that I really wanted this, but now I've experienced it. I really don't like it after all. So, we learn and grow, and our truth can change. So I think sometimes, not sometimes, all the times, if we don't allow ourselves to trust ourselves and to get to know ourselves, it is very hard. So as an example, someone in their 20s or early 20s, when they're just starting out in relationship and life, they really don't have a good grasp of everything about who they are yet. They're still learning all of that. But when they're in their late 40s or 50s or 60s, they've had a lot of life experience, and now they know who they are, they know what they want. So perhaps it gets easier and easier from experience to set clear boundaries, to be open and honest, to not put up with shit you don't want to put up with anymore, because there's this kind of saying, I'm too old for this. That's when we really know that our boundaries have been crossed. Yeah, no, not doing this anymore. We have a sense of who we are, and that sense gets stronger and stronger as we get older. One of the benefits of getting older.
Right. Do you feel like there's, yeah, like the experience with age thing, I feel like there's a lot of validity with that, but also what happened? So your day-to-day basis, from my perspective, obviously, is you deal with people going through breakups, and
Mhm.
in the mind, surrounding that. Um, I completely lost my train of thought during that, and I have no idea what happened right there. Brain is
Okay.
fried. What? No, you said something right before I started talking.
About age and experience getting
Yes,
older.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So, how does that play into people, let's say, that are like entering into like their 80s now, to whereas they got married, in their 20s, and never got divorced, and that was a
Mm.
pretty common thing. And now we've seen like a big fall off of divorce rates and things like that. So, I mean, is age and experience really like the key factor in that, or is that just kind of or is that also bringing part of your baggage along with it?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to answer this correctly, so bear with me. Well, I've noticed that a lot of people get separated in their 40s and 50s. They reach a kind of a turning point in their life where they start to think, do I want to be old and be with you? And the answer is no. So they end it. But often later than that, like in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they start to go, do I want to die alone? No. So I'd rather stay with you. But also, if they've been together this long, hopefully they actually love each other. And older people have a very different idea about relationship than younger people. What life was like 40 years ago is completely different to what it is now. So they have different values and
Mhm.
different way of doing relationship that works for them. So that's cool.
So
So
oh, sorry, go ahead.
that's right, you go.
Um, yeah, so I was going to ask, like, so you kind of going from a previous marriage, and divorce and other relationships, um, let's just say more experience in that. Um, how have you seen the like trends change in dating? Like this is like your field,
Mm,
so it's not only personal experience but also through like your professional work, or is that just a made up thing that I just came up with, like trends in dating? Because like right now I
no.
feel like we're in, like when I was in college, it almost seemed like everybody was into like partying and like that whole it you still met people at bars, you still kind of went out, and now
Mm,
everybody's like a hookup culture to where you just swipe right and you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go, like hang out with
yeah.
them for an hour and then come back, and it's just kind of like diminished everything to where, and then you take it way back to where you got married, 21, 20, 23, whatever, and that was very average. So I mean, yeah, with
Mm.
like trends, are you kind of seeing how things are going in a positive way, in a negative way, and then how did you handle those going from your divorce, into the dating thing, and kind
Yeah.
of
But
moving
dating
forward?
definitely has changed. I mean, well, I'm 50, right? So when I got married 30 years ago, nearly, there was no internet.
Hmm?
Like how dramatic has the world changed in the last 20 years? It's crazy. So of course things have changed, and with COVID and lockdowns and all of that sort of thing, internet dating is really the only way people have been able to meet. Personally, I find it a bit sad, the whole hookup culture. I mean, sure, people did one night stands 30 years ago as well, of course. But now it's like people are just looking for that. Well, I'm just going to look for it. Whereas before it was kind of like a chance encounter or whatever it might have been.
Right.
And so kind of it feels to me, and maybe this is my age, I don't know, but it feels to me that people are disconnecting from themselves with one night stands. Like there's no true connection in that. You know, I read a post the other day, some guy wrote, I'm 35 and I have no idea what it means to make love. Is it a real thing? Like, yeah. Fortunately, a whole bunch of women wrote on there, yes, it's a real thing. And there was lots of advice on the difference between making love and having sex. So it does concern me a bit that people are kind of forgetting what love actually is, and they're just going for this sexual release stuff, which is okay, of course, but not over and over and over again for years. I mean, where's the satisfaction in that?
Oh yeah, there is none. No, I did it. Yeah, it's horrible. It's very shallow. You find yourself alone on holidays. Yeah, no, it's not fun. I mean, like it's just like drugs. You do it to try to, like, you know, fill that hole in that doesn't have a bottom, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's something that you want to do forever. You just don't know it can change. At least that's how I, you know, kind of looked at it. It wasn't, I didn't even know that it was possible to change. It's just kind of, that's how it was. It's, I don't know. It's, things have changed quite a bit, and I don't know how to. So you said, like, all right, so you said that the man wasn't sure if making love was a real thing. And I wanted to touch on that because I feel like from the perspective that I have, or from my lens, that's not allowed until you've reached a certain age. So it feels like to me, like being a man, it's like in your teenage years, no one takes you serious. It doesn't matter what you do. There isn't anybody that's going to take you serious. In your 20s, they expect you to mess up. In your 30s, you're expected to fix everything, get your shit together, and kind of have it very stable. You have your family, your career, and then your 40s. I don't know what happened with. That's when you're an adult, and then life kind of like ends, and you just kind of like pay bills, you know. At least that's what it seems to be, the timeline. That's by no means going to be my timeline, or is my timeline.
So many expectations, my goodness.
yeah, exactly. But the hookup culture is there's still that narrative of, if I go out and I sleep with somebody and I tell a couple of my friends about it, you know, depending on what she looks like is what the reaction I get. It's a trophy. You know, in the most brutal way of saying it, you know, it's a trophy. To whereas, like, from a woman's perspective, it has now almost, it seems as if it's expected almost, to where you're not even like expected to go on dates. You know, it's like women really seem like they've fully bought in to the hookup culture. They've just completely given up on everything. And to be in love, you know, or to like show affection or to make love is for old people and corny. To whereas kind of like doing your own thing and grinding, you know, and like everybody wants to like work hard and hustle and, you know, 20-hour days and 4-hour sleep and do everything for yourself. And then it just kind of leads into that, and it's diminished what relationships even mean, to where I don't even know if we as a society, at least in my country, really know what a true relationship is.
That's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
Because men are missing out if that's the way they think, because making love is about, that's almost, well, definitely it's about a heart-to-heart connection, but it's also, it can be like a spiritual experience. And just, you know, bumping bodies, that's great to some point, but there's so much more to it. And you know, listening to the way you describe the expectations of men, and I think that just really points out very clearly the differences between men and women, because women kind of mature sooner in terms of, you know, their late 20s, they're really starting to wind down a little bit and knuckle down into what they want for their lives and expectations and children and all that. But I guess their hormones have something to do with that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, but if young men don't give themselves the opportunity to feel what making love is, then they're just seriously missing out.
I think a big reason for that is how we perceive women to talk and think about us. So again, I'm trying to figure out how to voice this without sounding like I'm talking to one of my friends in a locker room. Yeah, like
Okay.
if you sleep with a woman, or you know, man, whatever the thing is now, it feels like you're being judged. As a man, if it definitely feels like we are not allowed to like let ourselves go and feel emotion when we're in a bedroom. It feels like it is that the bed is a stage and we now have to perform, especially definitely early on in the relationship. It's
That's
almost
true.
it's almost yeah, it's almost like a given. The first one is and then after that you're judged.
Yeah.
And so the whole making love thing is, it's not the same thing, you know, like
Mm.
anybody that says that they've never done it. It's not the same thing, but it takes realizing that it's not the same thing to do that. And I
Yeah.
think there's a big cultural shift to where like it's a performance, you know, and like it's like, oh
Yeah.
well, you know, and if the relationship doesn't go well, you know, every guy's afraid of like, you know, the little penis jokes or the you're bad in bed in front of your friends, and you know, like all of like these things that kind of prevent us from actually opening up and showing these emotion.
Mm.
Because and you know, maybe it is from like carrying that baggage, you know, and I know there's men out there that don't do that.
Yeah.
They're probably
So
just better men than I am. I don't know.
the funny thing is, if a guy can get past that sense of being judged and truly be himself, be a little bit vulnerable, be open to really feeling his partner, whether it be another man or another woman, doesn't matter, just really feeling into your partner, the sex will be so much better. And then it actually doesn't matter really about, you know, the size of his penis or his performance, because the connection is what makes the sex amazing.
I believe you, but I would also say porn has ruined relationships,
Oh, yes, I've been dying
like
to say that.
yeah,
Because porn is so fake, and so many people, especially if they're starting to watch it as teenagers,
oh
think
yeah.
that that's what sex is. And for some reason, people forget that there's outtakes and there's cuts and there's, I can't remember what they call them.
Oh, it's a
You know,
movie. It's
there's
edited. It's
yeah, there's like
there's a
fake,
script and everything. Yeah.
yeah, there's fake cum shots and there's, you know, body extras and doubles and, you know, there's all of that makeup and, you know, a 5-minute scene might take 2 hours to film.
Oh yeah.
It just really gets on my nerves that people think that porn is always real and that's what people want. And it also, I don't know if you know, there is a difference between porn that men watch and there is some porn that's created just for women. And the women's porn always starts off slower, you know, than this I'm ready and I'm available. Let's go. Like, that's just not how life works.
Yeah, I feel like that's why women have books. You guys
Yeah.
you guys have those because you like the drawn out process to where men are just drug addicts. We just want that fix. Whatever, whatever.
But not all men. Not all men. I have had many male clients who are stuck with this stereotype of I should be this, and they're not. Where in fact the women and the men have swapped roles. The kind of stereotypical roles where it's the woman who wants the sex and the man's like, no man, I need some emotional contact with you. And then there's this whole, oh my God, what's wrong with me thing. But for all the guys listening out there, if you're more like the stereotypical woman, that's fine. You're normal. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we're still not going to believe you. There's, I mean, yeah, just because it's the internet and we have microphones, that doesn't make it real. Like,
no.
You're trying to appeal to an audience who I feel like most guys or most males at this point have started watching porn around 11.
God, that's tragic.
I would bet. Yeah, I think the first time that I even knew what it was around like 11 or 12. Like you start hearing jokes, but you have no idea what they mean. You're just expected to know what they mean. It's just all these expectations. You really have no idea what you're doing. And growing up as like a 13-year-old boy is one of the most confusing periods of, I mean, speaking of periods, being a woman growing up, that's got to be extremely confusing as well. But I mean, like to have sex literally be thrown in our face, and like there's a computer right here, within 5 seconds I could be watching porn. Have that availability, it ruins sex. It makes it so it's literally just, oh, I don't like this one, next. Okay, this one works, cool. And that's
but what does that remind you of? The swipe culture. Oh, I don't like this one. Next.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's something that I don't think is going away anytime soon.
And again, this is another whole topic. This is another whole hour of a podcast talking about porn. And sex.
Yeah, there's tons of them. The thing that I was like, there's so many things that I could talk to you about. Clearly we've hit on like 400 different subjects. How you get into your field, we've briefly touched about it. But one of us, and it definitely was not this guy, was in a pretty big magazine. And like by pretty big, I mean physically, pretty big, and kind of like the distribution.
You mean this one?
I do mean that one. Yeah. How do you go from, kind of like your experience to your career to now you're in, and you're not just like in the magazine, like a little like clip, like they gave you half the book, like you open up the whole thing and you're just like, you're all over the place. So how do you go from like that, and then what comes with that?
Oh geez, that's a really good question. So I've got 6 pages, which is nice.
That's a lot.
And if anyone would like to check it out, it's called Feminescence, and you can get a digital copy for $5 Australian, which is less dollars. Feminescence.com.au/shop, and then you can find out a little bit more about me. And I have a 20% off offer for coaching if anyone is interested in checking that out. How did I come across this? Facebook, actually.
Really?
The editor of the magazine saw me on Facebook. She liked my profile photo of all things. Then she asked to be friends with me on Facebook, and I said yes, and we started talking, and next thing you know, I'm in the magazine. So that's pretty cool. And from that, I have now recorded a TEDx talk, which is all about men's mental health, that will be released in a couple of weeks, I hope. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like one thing leads to another, just like in life, when we're open, we trust our intuition, we say yes to things that are good for us instead of no. more and more happens, more and more great things happen when we believe in ourselves and we keep on trusting the universe.
Oh yeah, 100%. Have you? So I guess you're the magazine. Congratulations, by the way. That really is pretty amazing.
It is cool.
It's a feminescence magazine. And the cover of it makes me think feminine, obvious.
Yes.
But you specialize in breakups with men. Have you tried going down that same avenue only in like a male dominated category of like literature or magazines, or kind of like how do we find you, I guess? And I'm speaking for the entire male community, because you don't exist. We're alone.
Okay. Oh, that's so sad. You're not alone. You're not alone. And I know other people who do exactly what I do. So if anyone's out there and they want to work with a male coach, I can very easily hook you up with a male, because some guys would prefer to work with a man. And I'm very happy to refer you to one of my colleagues who happens to also be a psychologist and works with men and dads. And we just by chance met each other. But anyway, if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram as @the Transformational Breakup. Since working on this magazine, I have actually extended my services to working with women, which is great as well. So I still love working with men, but I realized I actually love working with women too. And that's great. So @the Transformational Breakup on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I have also got a very new support group, which is called, oh my gosh, I forgot what my support group's called. We'll just forget about that for now. Divorce and a little bit of hope, something along those lines. It's only very brand new and I don't post very much in there. But look, I don't do a lot of social media because I'm busy. But I'm really happy to, I would much rather be working with my clients than spending time on social media. And even if I've got a VA, you still got to tell the VA what to do, right? So I'm like, I just see my clients. I kind of think if I'm really quiet, then I have lots of time for social media. But I would still love to connect with anyone and have a chat to them. I make myself available for people who reach out, and I always respond personally to people who send me messages, because it's important. And after a breakup, people go through absolute hell, and I would never ignore people, unless they're being blatantly rude or disgusting, which sometimes have marriage proposals. Those kind of things I ignore. That's my boundaries. But if someone's genuinely reaching out and asking for help, then I will help them. They can also, for the guys, I don't have this for the girls, for the guys, I have a free webinar, goes for 1 hour on my website, which is leannekanzler.com. And that just talks about the stages of divorce and breakups and some tips on how to cope with that. And, the guys who have watched that have all given me some pretty good feedback. So that's free. You don't have to pay anything for that. You don't have to book an appointment with me or anything like that. You can just go onto the website and have a look at that. And hopefully that will help you out.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, I have one more question, and then we get you out of here.
Okay.
My biggest question, I guess, for right now, I could come up with 500 other ones, especially for you. I feel like we could do 20 of these and never stop talking. How different is the breakup between the sexes? So I've taken breakups pretty bad in the past. And it definitely seems like men have them worse. I've seen breakups on both sides, having friends of both sexes, being a part of them on both sides. It definitely seems like women, you guys are savages. Women, you have this innate ability to mask pain, and put it off as this, you do not care. Like you can project the I'm done with you, even if you're not, even if like you still hope we get our shit together and you can take us back. It doesn't look like that. And women are very good at that. Whereas we as men, we crumble. And like there are plenty of men who, like, and me being one of them, I've just completely melted and had to rebuild after a breakup. Is that just me? Um, or am I seeing breakups differently? Are they pretty even, or what would you say in this scenario?
Yeah, look, I've absolutely seen women feel exactly the same way that you feel and wonder why men are so cold and he doesn't seem to care and all of that sort of thing. So women absolutely crumble as well. One of the reasons that men find it more difficult is because often they don't see the signs. So, there's kind of a thing where women will say, I'm done, I've had enough, you're not listening to me. And the man will go, okay, yeah, she's good. It's not a problem, we're fine. And then one day it's not fine and he's like blindsided. He just didn't see it. Even though she claims, I've been telling you for 3 years I'm not happy, but he just didn't see it. So that feeling of being blindsided can lead to a sense of shock, dismay, what happened, what's wrong with me, all of that sort of stuff. The other advantage of being a woman when it comes to a breakup is that women talk. Women will talk to their friends, their family, anyone who will listen, a therapist. Men often shut down, or their mates will say, come on, let's go, we'll go to the pub and we'll hook you up. Well, a hookup is a nice temporary fix, but it doesn't solve the problem, and you're not validated, you're not understood, you're kind of left alone to wallow in your own grief all by yourself, which is terrible. Whereas women kind of rally together. Hey, baby, how you going? Can I buy you some flowers? Let's go out for dinner. Do you need something? Whereas men, no, you can handle that on your own, unless you have some really good female friends who might come along. I'm really hoping that this is changing. I'm a bit idealistic. I don't think it is, but I'm hoping that men are starting to support each other and go, okay, buddy, I can see you're on the floor in pain here. What can I do for you? I don't think it happens very often. It would be nice if it did. And that's why I decided to work with men, because a lot of female coaches will only work with women. I love working with men. Men are really cool. Men are nice to talk to. Men are, when you really start giving them the space to be honest, they just open up. It's a privilege and it's an honor. It's an honor to it's going to sound weird, but it's an honor to make a guy cry for the very first time. And for him to go, oh my God, I've never cried and that felt bloody awesome. Thank you so much for hearing me. That is so powerful and such an honor to help guys find their heart. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, hopefully you can keep fixing more of us so that way we can teach each other. Because as of right now, we're basically a bunch of like bald apes walking around like Neanderthals, banging sticks against rocks, hoping we can figure something out. Because we
not that bad. No,
we're not that bad, but yeah, we definitely could use some help.
Yeah, that's just an image. Underneath all of that, you guys have got just as much heart as women. You have just as much an emotional response as women. You have the capacity as women do. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah. No, I think we know it. We're afraid of telling you. We're afraid of showing it. It's not allowed. So
it is allowed. It is allowed.
All right. I'll start telling guys that it's allowed.
Okay.
So yeah. All right, cool. It's been an honor and a pleasure talking with you. I'm sure we're gonna keep up and this bullshit back and forth as friends.
Yeah, I think it's lovely.
Yeah, definitely. And if I ever get a chance to talk to you again, I'm definitely gonna take you up on it. I'm gonna go to your website and check everything out. Excuse me. And then I implore all of my listeners to do the same. Check out the magazine. There's a 20% code, you said, correct?
Yep,
All
a
right.
little barcode people can scan. And even if it's not for you, if you have any family or friends who are really struggling, happy for you to introduce them to me, and I will do my best to help them out.
Yeah. So basically, what we're trying to say is if you're listening to this, you are or you know a man. That's facts. And if they've gone through a breakup, now you have an answer on how to fix it. You send them to Leanne, and she will be able to assist you. And I think I'm gonna send you my buddy Tom. So no, I love you, Tom. You're amazing. So
Right on the bus. All right.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's been amazing talking to you, and I hope that your listeners enjoyed our conversation as much as we did.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they did. So if I have any feedback and you're forced to come back on, I apologize, but we went all over the place, and who knows what will happen in the future. So it was a pleasure again, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.
And oh, not that button. I